put up the initial idea on TikTok to see if it was worth even starting, or did you have this mindset that you were just going to go for it right away?
Definitely the mindset I was just gonna go for it right away. I
Mhm.
I didn't even have TikTok when I started this,
Okay.
because I don't know how you were, but like my initial I kind of had the same similar mindset of TikTok that a lot of people did that were like out of college and more, or like even maybe the end. They were like, oh, it's just high schoolers dancing.
Yeah, teenagers.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I was like, no, I get that. But then, um, so yeah, I kind of went into the dates just like, okay, how am I going to do this? And I was like, oh, maybe I'll put them on my Instagram. And so I started kind of throwing things on my Instagram and whatnot here and there. And when
Hmm.
I initially announced it on Facebook, and that like really blew up.
Okay.
It had like a lot of shares, a lot of likes, stuff like that. And so I was like, oh, like people think this is pretty cool and whatnot. And then when I started going on dates, the dates were asking me, they're like, oh, so is this like a TikTok thing? And I'm like, no, I don't even have TikTok. They're like, you don't have TikTok? And I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, I gotta get TikTok. And so then
God forbid.
yeah, yeah, right. Yeah. And so then I got TikTok and then, started figuring it out along the way. But yeah, initially I had no idea.
So the first couple dates I noticed that you knew them like friend wise. So when you started reaching out to strangers, how did you reach out to them? Was it through like Instagram or Tinder?
Yeah, yeah. So I think like the first 5 or 6 dates I had, I think I knew like two of them. And what I did is I wanted to, before I like announced I was doing this thing, I wanted to have some inventory to show like it was like I was already working on it, or it was like I already had some inventory. It
Hmm.
wasn't just like, hey, I'm gonna do this, and then like nothing to really back it up.
Right.
And so when I first and I tried to pick girls, if I did know them, I tried to pick girls that I hadn't talked to for a long time. So then it's like it's almost like just reconnecting, or someone that
Hmm.
I might have talked to very briefly. So there was that, but then yeah, I started on Tinder with everything. Everything was through Tinder, and I would just message them. I'd kind of like I'd throw my elevator pitch and whatnot, and then eventually I started doing a couple, or I'd slide into some DMs too. I was doing
Hmm.
that route because Tinder, it sucks because there's so much waiting. And I mean,
Yes, I hate that.
yeah, yeah, DMs there's waiting too, but it is more direct. And
Hmm.
so in Tinder, you don't even know if somebody's gonna really see it.
Right.
So I started those two, but then after it started rolling, then I didn't even have to use Tinder anymore, which was super nice. Because then I would just go through my DMs or my comments, and then I could just pick the girls that I thought were, cute and fun and chill, and be like, all right, you.
I like that. That's really cool. So, what was a typical message like? I'll give an example of mine. It's whenever I reach out to someone. I mean, you saw it. It's kind of it's. I try to make a little more. I try to make it personalized for everybody. I don't
Yeah.
want to just have a basic message, but I say like, "Hey, I saw your stuff. Really like what you're doing." And then I kind of say, what I'm into, and what I do, so I'm not sounding like a complete random stranger. Um, and then I send my podcast profile just to make sure, like, show them like this is legit.
Mhm. No,
Mhm.
I thought your approach was awesome because like you
Okay.
were the thing that made me attracted to it was like I could tell you were an energetic guy, or like you
Hmm.
were you were enthusiastic about what you do and everything. It wasn't just like, hey, I have a podcast, want to come on? Like it was
Yeah.
like it wasn't dry. It was like you had a good approach to it. So I
Okay.
really
Cool.
yeah. And for me, my pitch changed like 18 times because like at first it was typical just saying like, hey, or at first I would say like I'd ask them a question because usually when you get asked a question, you always want to know what like the follow up is. And
Yeah.
so I would ask them a question to like kind of reel it in, or to cast out the fishing pole. And then once they bit, then I try to reel them in. And so
Yeah.
I would ask them just like, hey, would you consider yourself a fun and outgoing gal? And
Hmm.
then or like fun and spontaneous or whatever I would say. And then normally they'd be like, because if they say no, they just sound boring. And
Yeah.
so and so most of them would say like, yeah, or whatever. I think so. Why? And then I would say, well, I created this thing called 50 Dates, 50 States, where I'm trying to go on a virtual date with a girl in every state. And initially I was trying to do it before quarantine ended, for
Yeah.
the before some like the LA stuff popped up and whatnot. But yeah, I said I'm trying to get go on a date with a girl in every state before quarantine ends. You can check out. I sent them my Insta and things like that. If it was on Tinder, just because even if I didn't have like an artillery of stuff to show, just so they could like check me out, if they were like, oh no, this kid's a weirdo, like so I tried to give them the common courtesy to, at least like uh social media stalk me.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of in the beginning, and then towards the like as it went, then I would kind of do what you did, is like how you shared your podcast. Like
Hmm.
sometimes I'd be like, oh, check me out on TikTok or things like that. Like and it was usually pretty easy that way because it was already girls who reached out to me, and so I was
Yeah.
just like, oh yeah, like absolutely. So it
That's
changed
cool.
a bunch, but yeah. So
Well then.